Hey everyone, welcome back to Ask Becca About Space. I am in my last week on the island, which is kind of sad because things are just now starting to green out. There's lots of flowers and green grass and like summertime things on the island, and it's been really fun hanging out and hiking around here. But I will start the long trek back to Oslo by train on next Wednesday. So that is the plan. So today I'm going to talk a little bit more about the sun. I have kind of a fun, silly question. And then I have an update on how the sun is doing, because there's been a lot of like really annoyingly premature, but not technically incorrect press about the sun lately that we can discuss, and I can let you know what's going on from our perspective at the Institute. Okay. So first of all, my friend Maggie, she texted me and she said that one of her friends suggested that we just get rid of all of our trash by launching it into the sun, like posed as a serious question. And like, I know that my position as a public educator is to like treat every question with dignity and respect as a valid question, but I can't always help what my face does when people ask things like that. So the first thing I thought of, really, honestly, was the cost alone of transporting garbage from our entire planet to the sun. Like, do you understand how sensitive payloads are on board spacecraft? Like, there is only so much weight allowed to be able to launch something out of Earth's orbit. So like, besides the environmental aspects of just kind of like thinking that we can do whatever in the world that we want, and because we have a boiling furnace of ionized plasma right up there that can take care of it for us, well, in reality, no, it can't. No, it can't, because of so many reasons. But launching our garbage into the sun does not solve the problem. It doesn't solve the problem of how much garbage, first of all, we're generating, the problem of what to do with it in an ethical and cost-effective way. Instead, it just creates 8 million new problems. It's very expensive to launch things, and I don't know if you've ever seen a rocket launch, but it's not that big. The biggest part is the kind of like the fuel tank that gets her going. You know what I mean? So if you were to attach a payload of just like a huge Santa bag of all of our trash, that doesn't make any sense at all. Too heavy, too much. So expensive. Why do you think anyone has that kind of money just lying around for trash missions to space when we have struggled so much for our minimum payload exploratory research science missions to space? How dare you? But anyway, yeah, it's not a solution. It's not viable. A better thing would to be continuing to innovatively think of ways by which we can stop thinking of the Earth and the sun, incidentally, as just a resource. It is a resource. I understand that. But are we being a good steward of our resources? No, we could certainly be better stewards of our resources. We could be better stewards of solar energy. We could be better stewards of wind energy. And we could be better stewards of our own ingenuity. Because as humankind, we have what it takes to understand how to, for example, craft better packaging to replace plastic packaging, because now we know, whereas plastic revolutionized the industry back when it was first made, we now understand we can't get rid of this stuff in a way that's healthy for us and healthy for our planet. You know what I mean? So, but now we know. And when you know better, you can do better. And doing better is not launching trash into the sun. Just very simply put. Okay. Also, so my friend Lisa, who we talked about enchiladas last time for Lisa, but she sent me another article about the sun now waking up. So after the panic of the sun being in lockdown, now we have a bunch of press about the sun waking up. I would really appreciate it if people stopped publishing things after like 3 days of data. The thing is, it's not inaccurate. Also, oh yeah, my dad sent me this article as well from the Independent. Yes, from the Independent, which it's a source of information, but it's often not. It depends on who's writing, frankly, the piece from the Independent. But often, instead of being a source of good scientific information, the Independent can be a source of extrapolation instead and speculation. Because it's not technically incorrect that the sun could be waking up, or that the sun just released the biggest solar flare in years. Well, that could be true. But that's like saying, today, what is it? June 5th. June 5th has been the hottest day all year. Well, so what in the Northern Hemisphere? So what? There are hotter days to come, you know what I mean? So that's kind of like saying that. Like the sun is supposed to be, or has been, in a quiet period. So if it released a comparatively large solar flare, that doesn't mean much. Also, that the active region of the sun right now that has in fact produced a sunspot, which is very cool because we haven't seen a whole lot of sunspots in the past several months. That sunspot just appeared on Wednesday. So how did you how did you know? But this is one example where this kind of speculation may or may not be true. It's not that it's like completely false. It's that it's a little premature, and it's too. As scientists, we don't jump to those conclusions. If you see someone jumping to conclusions, they're not a scientist. What we do is we look at information and we try to make increases in our own understanding based on that information. And what we have now is some information that an active region has formed and is rotating into the face of the sun. So at the Rosseland Centre for Solar Physics, where I work, we have a collaboration with the Swedish Solar Telescope in La Palma in the Canary Islands. We just finished an observing campaign over the past week or two, I think. But that observing campaign ended on Wednesday, and that sunspot emerged after our campaign was done. And so now the folks who have the observing time are in Lockheed, the Lockheed Martin Solar Astrophysics Lab in Palo Alto, California. And so they are monitoring that active region. However, the weather has not been very good in the Canary Islands for observing the sun. And so now we're relying on the satellites that are in space, particularly the Parker Solar Probe. So the update from my institute, from senior researchers at my institute today, has been that our observing campaign is done, so we're not involved in the observation of that active region right now. Lockheed is involved in the observation, but we're also connected with Lockheed. So we will be involved in the data reduction. We will not be involved in talking to journalists immediately to make wild, broad brush conclusions about what's going on in the sun. These things take so much time, you guys. The news works a lot different than science does. We take months to do our research, months to do our writing, and months to do something called peer review. And peer review of our journals means that essentially a jury of our peers has to read what we've concluded and what we've written and very critically assess the conclusions that we draw. In journalism, in everyday journalism, we don't have that process, especially when news kind of like happens in live time. And so now that we're used to a 24-hour news cycle, the news does not have that peer review process that scientific articles do. So this is one of the many reasons why we should take articles about science that appear seemingly in live time with several grains of salt, because the data that comes out of this active region is not going to be processed right away. We'll do our best, we'll go as fast as possible, but the science that we do on that data takes time, and we have to approach that critically and ethically. So if you would like to know about this active region, check back in a little while. Probably don't rely too heavily on things that come out of sources like The Independent. Okay, so things are happening on the sun. It's good. It's good to see. Now we have something to observe, which is great. Even though I'm a quiet sun solar physicist, so either way is good for me because I'm looking at quieter magnetic regions of the sun. But yeah, the sun does have an active region now, which is really, really great. I can actually show you. So this is the Solar Dynamics Observatory website, and it is updated every time the Solar Dynamics Observatory sends back new stuff. And so here we can look at the sun in almost live time in a variety of different wavelengths. And these are the pictures that are also behind me. Yeah, so this right here, this kind of black and white picture here, this is called a magnetogram. And each group of black and white pixels, and this is the full sun's face that we can see, or that the observatory can see that's in space. This tells us where there is a relatively strong magnetic field. This down here, this is the active region that we're talking about. This is something that's actually produced a sunspot. And we can also see that sunspot in what's called an intensitygram. See? There's a little sunspot. We'll zoom in. It's a pretty sizable one, especially compared to what we've been seeing. They get a lot bigger in active times, but we're just not there yet. And then another fun wavelength is 304. I like this. This is a layer of the sun called the chromosphere. So it's right above the perceived surface of the sun. And you can see there the kind of solar prominences and brightening where the magnetic field is higher, okay? Where we might have plasma connectivity right above that surface of the sun, where the foot points are those intense magnetic field regions, okay? So you can go to the Solar Dynamics Observatory website, and I'll put the link in the description for you to check on what the sun is actually doing. And you can cross-check some of the articles that you're looking at, because when that article was published, that active region hadn't rotated in yet. So other things were happening on the sun, but it's just irresponsible to draw immediate conclusions when you're doing science, right? So with that, I will leave you until next week. I don't have anything on the docket, but I'm sure I will find something to talk about. If you're curious about something, or if more kind of pop science arises in the news, feel free to let me know. My immediate response is usually with skepticism, but so should yours. So yeah, with that, as we say in the field, keep looking up.